Hello everyone, I am here to take you through the HAD Working in Heat program, which is designed to provide a system and resources for the management of work in hot environments and assist you in protecting your workers' health in the extreme heat of summer.
Outdoor working conditions, especially in summer in the Gulf region, are extreme as you know, and special precautions are needed to protect workers from heat illness and even fatal heat stroke. In hot environments, a worker's body also produces heat in addition to the environment heat load.
The harder they work, the more heat the body produces, and the higher the heat stress on the worker.
Heat stress can cause heat illness, leading to the development of heat rashes, exhaustion, nausea, headaches, cramps, fainting, collapse, and in severe cases, heat stroke and death.
Lower productivity, increased number of accidents, equipment damage, and losses also increase when workers are exposed to severe heat conditions without correct control and preventative measures at work sites. This DVD will give an overview of the HAD Working in Heat program, which has been scientifically researched and developed by leading experts in occupational heat stress.
It is very important that workers wear the right clothing and accessories, which allows the evaporation of sweat and body cooling. This will ensure good hygiene and help prevent the development of heat rashes and skin problems. Avoid the use of rubber boots, as leather is cooler than rubber when it comes to work boots. Eating proper meals is very important for the health of workers exposed to extreme heat conditions. Eating nutritious meals replaces the salt lost in sweat and raises essential blood sugar levels back up to normal for improved performance and productivity. Workers should be encouraged to drink water with a meal to replace sweat lost from working in the heat. Supervisors should make sure your workers eat at every meal break and do not skip meals. It is necessary to understand some important definitions when we talk about heat and heat stress. First, we have the moderately fit and healthy workers. These are people who do not suffer from any condition that causes increased body temperature, like flu, have no fluid loss due to diarrhea or vomiting, and don't have a problem with working in heat from a health condition like obesity, high blood pressure, or pregnancy.
An acclimatized worker is one who has been working in the UAE for at least 1 week.
Recent arrivals from cooler climates or those who have been off work for more than 14 days are not acclimatized.
Remember, an unacclimatized person takes 1 week to get acclimatized and will need to take extra care during this time.
A well-hydrated worker is one who comes to work fully hydrated. They drink plenty of water during their shift and make it a way of life. Remember, workers should understand that if they only drink water when they are thirsty, it's too late, as they are already dehydrated by then. A self-pacing worker is one that is not pushed beyond their physical limits, and in extreme heat conditions, they can take rest breaks when required. The fluid intake required for maintaining adequate body hydration is determined by the sweat rate, and sweat rates vary with the acclimatization level of the worker. For example, if the worker is doing light work in a sitting position, then he needs less water as compared to a worker doing manual labor in the sun all day. This worker will require much more fluids to replace the loss of fluids from sweating. As a general guide in hot weather, it is recommended that manual workers must drink 2 liters of water every 2 to 3 hours at a minimum. A person can sweat 1 liter or more of sweat per hour in hot weather. A chart has been devised for you to understand the fluid replacement requirements per hour at different workloads. This chart will help you determine the fluid needs of your workers at different workloads. Hydration is the most important factor in controlling and preventing heat illness in workers. Further details is available in the training manual. When a worker loses body fluid by sweating in hot environments, he loses a lot of salt in the process, and this needs to be replaced in the diet or by electrolyte replacement drinks. Workers should be encouraged to add a little extra salt to their meals in summer to replace salt lost in sweat. But workers should be warned not to eat large quantities of salt or mix it in water.
Workers should be educated to avoid consumption of any drinks that have a high level of sugar in them, like soft drinks.
And ones that contain caffeine, like coffee, tea, and energy drinks, which dehydrate the body and increase fluid loss instead of helping to replace lost fluids. Some commercially available electrolyte replacement drinks are available and can be provided to workers in addition to water. Ideally, workers should consume one electrolyte replacement drink for every drink of water. They do not need electrolyte drinks alone. Hydration levels can be determined using a simple instrument by checking urine-specific gravity. This should be conducted by a trained health professional, like a doctor or nurse, and can be used as an educational tool for workers as well. Further details on how to measure urine-specific gravity for health personnel is available in the training manual. A well-hydrated worker's urine-specific gravity should not be more than 1.015, particularly when he starts work. A higher value indicates the need to drink more. At no time should the urine-specific gravity be more than 1.030, which indicates a high degree of dehydration. Rough hydration levels can be seen in the color of the urine as well. A large amount of pale yellow urine is good and indicates good hydration levels, whereas a small amount of dark-colored urine indicates poor hydration levels. The urine color chart provided can be used to educate workers about good hydration and the link to urine color. The charts should be put up in latrines and ablution facilities like toilets to remind them to assess the color of their urine and drink more fluids if required. The symptoms of heat illness must be recognized by workers, and they should be educated to identify symptoms in themselves and in fellow workers, as early intervention will help prevent serious heat illness and heat stroke. The table available in the Training and Procedures Manual lists the most common symptoms of heat illness. Let's examine some effective actions that should be taken in cases of heat illness amongst your workers. Firstly, they should inform the safety officer on site or supervisor. They should move the affected worker to a cooler area in the shade. Sit or lie the worker down. If he has fainted, then make sure you prop his legs up to improve circulation to his extremities. Give the worker plenty of water or electrolyte fluids if they are conscious. Remember, the fluids must be drunk slowly. Cool down the worker by sprinkling water on them or placing a cold towel on their head. If possible, direct a fan on them. Beware, do not use ice or chilled water on the worker. If you don't notice a quick recovery, then lay the worker down in the recovery position and monitor airway, breathing, and circulation. Once you have followed these steps, wait with the worker until an ambulance or professional medical help arrives. A dehydration and heat illness protocol chart is available in the Training and Procedure Manual for your reference. The Thermal Work Limit, or TWL, is a new heat stress index that has been developed and scientifically validated by leading researchers and experts in occupational heat stress. It has been adapted for the extreme heat conditions in the Gulf region and the local workforce. Thermal Work Limit, or TWL, is the heat stress index adopted by HAD to enable you to monitor the environment your workers are working in. and allow for a scientific assessment of the conditions to make decisions on what control and preventative measures are required. TWL is calculated from environmental parameters, assuming that workers are well hydrated and acclimatized to the conditions of the site. The various environmental parameters do require some measurement equipment to assess your local work conditions, which can be purchased from specialist equipment suppliers. Instruments to carry out TWL measurements are available, and HAD can advise on equipment requirements. The HAD Safety in the Heat website has a TWL calculator that you can use to assess TWL for your site by inputting the various parameters into the online TWL calculator. Some basic equipment will be required for this. All work areas should be monitored for TWL at least once per shift during the heat of the day. Also, when workers complain of excessive heat and whenever one has reported signs of heat illness. The thermal environment can be classified based on TWL into specific working zones. These are unrestricted work zone, acclimatized zone, buffer zone, and the withdrawal zone. A chart for the correct procedure for management of work in each zone is detailed in your training and procedure manual. This chart will enable you to assess the right interventions and preventative measures required. If the workload and TWL is above 220 watts per square meter, there is no limit on self-paced work for educated and hydrated workers. There is no restriction of acclimatized workers in this zone, but workers with uncertain acclimatization status should not be allowed to work alone in this zone. In the buffer zone, where TWL is between 115 and 140 watts per square meter, the safe level at which it is safe to work is limited by the environment. All possible measures must be taken to increase the TWL to above 140 watts per square meter. Increased ventilation using fans, shade, shielding, and cooling PPE, such as cooling vests, must be provided to aid cooling as much as possible. Unacclimatized workers may not work where conditions are in the buffer zone. If possible, you must try and rotate the workers when the TWL is in this zone, or implement work-rest cycling with scheduled rest breaks per hour. Required fluid intake is at least 1 liter per hour. This can be achieved by scheduling drinking of 1 large glass every 15 minutes. No workers should work alone in this zone. Workers should work on a buddy system and look out for each other, especially for the signs and symptoms of heat illness. Finally, it is highly recommended if possible to conduct a dehydration test at the end of every shift in highly exposed workers and encourage workers to drink after finishing work. It is important to note that many personal factors can reduce the effective work limit. The impact of these factors has been estimated and allowed for in the personal risk score, explained in the training and procedure manual. Acclimatization time applies to new workers or those who have been off work for more than 14 days in a cold or tropical environment. And returning applies to workers whose time off out of the heat zone has been 5 days or less. Additional risk factors include PPE, such as respirators, face masks, and insulated clothing. This also includes high level of task complexity, like operation of precision machinery, or environmental stressors, such as high level of noise or vibration, or even a high body mass index. Yes, a BMI of more than 30 affects the heat tolerance of workers. An effective work limit chart has been provided to help you estimate the cumulative effect of personal risk factors on the ability to work in heat. Remember, the higher the personal risk score, the lower the sustainable work rate at a given TWL. Visitors and new arrivals are especially at risk in hot environments. This includes visitors whose time on site is limited, and are not able to take enough time to acclimatize themselves. A document on important information for visitors and new arrivals has been provided by HAD, available on CD as an additional resource, or it can be downloaded from the HAD Safety in Heat website. Here are a few key points to remember. Always conduct an induction for new arrivals to the Gulf region, regardless of their origin. Before each summer, workers should be educated and reminded about the importance of maintaining good hydration and recognizing the signs of heat illness. And lastly, it is very important to keep constantly reminding workers about drinking enough fluids through posters displayed in toilets, restrooms, work areas, and labor camps when possible.
Decreasing the risk of heat illness means increasing productivity and a happier, safer workforce. Thank you very much for your attention. HAD aims to help you to protect your workers from heat illness.